Azzarrati. All right. Assalamu alaikum, Azzarrati.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sheikh. How are you doing?
I'm good, lillahi alhamd.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I love your hairstyle, your suit, everything on point today.
Shukran, yaar, shukran. Kya baat
Always,
hai.
you're a style guru slash mufti slash a philosopher slash
This is my, by the way, big shout out going to my stylist.
stylist.
Stylist, yeah. Maz Milner, or I call Max Milner from Milner Fashion.
Oh,
People,
mashallah.
those of you who are around the Midlands, in fact, you don't even need to be from the Midlands, but if you're looking for suits and you're looking for stuff, he's your Maz Milner is your guy. You just have to go to Milner Fashions. He's too awesome, too helpful. So yep. I thought I have to now that you reminded me, Kent. I'd forgotten what kind of ungrateful behavior is this?
The Tom Cruise, I could, the Tom Cruise look.
Yeah, this is kaha Tom Cruise.
Mufti Cruise.
So talk to us, man. What's going on, Azzarrati?
Nothing, Sheikh. Everything is alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah good. I don't know if you came across like Muhammad Hijab also wrote on this. Like he did an essay on his website. I think it's on free will. It's a pretty good read. I was reading it, so I just wanted to get your view. I know you had a particular view on free will, especially in God's will and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wanted to like see what your thing is on free will.
Right. Yeah. No,
'Cause
I haven't read Muhammad
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Hijab's
It's a
now.
very, I think I would say like an half an hour read, but it's pretty
Okay.
good. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's the gist of what he's saying? If you do, if you
Um,
can sum it up, that is.
like so that's what he was saying, that like how he the idea of free will, and like as opposed to God's will, like how and he starts off with forgetting the name of, it was an author who forgot the name. So it's pretty good, like how he was saying like um, like how some people think, even and atheist people, especially on free will, like they don't, like some of them just believe that we are like puppets, like biochemical puppets,
Yeah. A
even
bit.
though.
I think to some extent, even Sam Harris is
Oh
of.
yeah, I think
I
it was
think to
Sam
some
Harris.
extent, yeah, he's a
Oh, I
hard
guess it was
determinist.
Sam
Yeah.
Harris. Yes. So that's what he was elaborating, and then at the end, like he basically believes that there, like, of course we do have free will, and he doesn't believe in the idea that there's no, like, there's no free will, and yeah. So basically, it's pretty good. Like if you read, like I think you'll have like you'll do better justice in explaining it once you go through it. But yeah, it's pretty good. I thought
Sure.
maybe, yeah, it's on his Instagram too. I think the link is right there. So.
Okay. I mean, you see, because I feel that these topics are like it is. Right. So
Yeah.
I feel these topics, it's impossible to kind of quench the the kind of the thirst of curiosity on them, because it's one of those topics that nobody truly will be able to answer everything. Nobody. I mean, starting from the pre-Socratics
Yes.
to today. So nobody's going to really have an encapsulating answer. From the scientific perspective, many neuroscientists have taken a hard determinist approach, amongst them Sam Harris. I
Yes.
do disagree strongly with that. I would definitely, I would see myself from a scientific perspective more in line with people like Donald Hoffman, who argue for consciousness. You see, what they do is they flip it, and consciousness is at the fundamental, it is the fundamental building block of reality. You see, because the hard determinists do it the other way, like Sam Harris. So they're saying, well, you've got the world, you've got us, within us, you've got the brain, within the brain, you've got consciousness. And consciousness is what gives rise to the illusion of free will. But so you see, people like Donald Hoffman, amongst others, they have argued that actually consciousness is at the building, it is at the fundamental ground of reality. It is not, it is what is required for reality to rise. And I would, from a scientific perspective, more be in line with those people, because I see that as the ruh, consciousness. So I would agree that this is how I see it. In terms of, obviously, do we have, because the question is, it's not, do we, you see, because you're grappling with different things. You see, you're grappling with, do we have free will? So everybody would say that, okay, we have free will, as in we have responsibilities. So even Sam Harris wouldn't say we don't have responsibilities, like we're not. So if somebody went and stabbed someone, they wouldn't say that this person isn't responsible. They would say they are. So everybody at one level is agreeing. So from a legal perspective, so you have to wear different caps, so or have different filters and lenses. So in a legal capacity, everybody's saying everybody's got free will. Okay. Then you've got religious speak. So from a religious perspective, there's also a different challenge, because we have this zoom in, zoom out perspective, which that's how I would answer it. Other people, they would answer it, because on one hand, Allah is in control of everything, but then we have free will. And then how do you marry between the two? And this is the famous traditional struggle of all the the scholars. The Maturidi have done somewhat of a better job than the Ash'aris. And so I would argue, I would be in line with those who say we do have free will. We have free will in that moment, and Allah has given us that capacity to choose. And then you've got the scientific perspective. How do you answer the science? Because the science is a different argument in saying that, well, actually, our DNA and certain things carry certain markers which give, they have certain proclivities towards certain actions. And then also the tests that have shown, let's say, the brain identifying certain choices up to 7 seconds before the mind is conscious of that choice. In certain experiments, they've shown that a person would choose this, and then he does choose that. And even before he's aware that he's going to choose it, they know, because the brain, because of the nodes they've got in, what they've got in the brain, picking up the signals. So the signal exists before the person is conscious of it. So this is the neuroscience. But from that, you see, there's a difference, because from the neuroscience perspective, I would argue this from the angle of consciousness. And I would be in line with saying, well, look, that you see, it's because consciousness, obviously, we don't even know where to begin with when it comes to measuring these kind of things. We don't, there is no even, forget, are we doing it right or wrong? We've got no idea. So the other point is that there's an amazing experiment on YouTube. And if you haven't watched it, I'd love, recommend everybody watches it. It's called the quantum eraser experiment. And it shows where in quantum physics, where history rewrites itself depending on your choice. And it's really phenomenal. So that is, I think, the closest insan has gotten in understanding free will from a quantum physics perspective, where it's, I mean, rather than, because I would just say, just watch it. If people haven't watched it, it's the quantum eraser experiment. So basically what they do is they shoot, it's the double slit experiment, which is measured by which is the famous experiment, which slit does the subatomic particle go through. But here, whichever of the slits it goes through emits a photon, which is okay, fine, nothing so, radically new about that. But then what happens is the photon is then bounced off a mirror, but the mirror has a 50% chance that it will go through and disappear, or it will be reflected. Okay. Then there's like 3 mirrors in this, and each mirror has a 50% chance that the photon will go to waste. Now, if it goes to waste and disappears, then it won't be measured, so you won't know which of the slits it went through. And if you don't know which of the slits it went through, then you will find an interference pattern on the wall. But if it reflects it and then it does 3 and then it measures it at the top, so basically every time it goes through something, there's a 50% chance it will just shoot off. It won't reflect it. So you won't know. And if you won't know, every time you won't know, you find the pattern is an interference pattern. And it's almost impossible. How does it do this? It's as though it in this minuscule, microscopic sense of time, it rewrites history to measure what was found. I mean, you have to watch it. It's on YouTube. Like this, it sounds crazy. What I'm saying doesn't make any sense. But that is the closest I feel insan has got to in understanding the free will argument. And I think it answers it from somewhat of an Islamic perspective as well. So, yeah, the hard determinist argument, like Sam Harris. You see, one thing I would say is that, you see, even as I said in the beginning, even people like Sam Harris would argue that in a legal sense, we have free will. So that that already is he's shooting himself in the foot, because it's a contradiction. Now he may say, well, that's what we are. He may say, well, we are just contradictions, but then it's not fair, you see, because if you're saying, and it doesn't make sense as well, you're saying this person was fated. I mean, since the Big Bang, it was fated that this person, that Hitler was to burn all these Jews alive. It was fated since the Big Bang, just by the laws of physics. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's like, it doesn't, it's ridiculous. And I get it. He may say, well, that's just as ridiculous as it is, but that's it. That's life. But it just doesn't, we don't buy that in any, I mean, human beings don't buy that, because we don't, you see, it just doesn't settle with us. Yeah. So
amazing, Sheikh. Yeah. No, because
but it is a very, obviously it's such a difficult topic, though. Yeah.
It's always like so fascinating to think about it. It's just, I think it's so many dimensions, because we just think one dimensionally about free will. Maybe like, so that's what I was thinking. Like, for example, what goes inside a murderer's mind? Like, for example, there are 2 possibilities. One, he takes into account that he did it, like, which most of the murderers do. Like, they're mentally unstable. They're like, we did it. But what if, like, he said, okay, he accepts it. It's like it was not free will. It was by God's will. So then they will be like, how can you blame it on God? But what I was thinking is, what the positive of that is, if at least he blames it on God, there is a chance that he might repent. Don't you think, Sheikh? So that would be the
if
positive.
He blames it on God.
Yes, say for example,
if he blames it on God, then why would he repent? Because he's going to say, well,
no, like
God,
maybe he will, at least he believes that God exists, right? Like, he believes that God is there, and he blames it on him, and then maybe he gets a chance later on. He at least, I don't know, like later on down the line, he might think that, I don't know, like, at least he recognized the fact that God exists, and God, like, he's blaming on God, and then maybe that same thing would probably lead him to repent. I don't know.
See, I would feel that if a person said that, in all honesty, I don't know, but I guess I'm characterizing Any person who says things like that, they're not, to me, it's very difficult finding that speech to be genuine. You know, if a person says, "Oh, I never did it, God made," that kind of speech is very difficult for me to find it to be genuine. That it seems either they are mentally incapacitated, and that, you know, they don't have, and they say these kind of things all the time, like, "Oh, I didn't do that, he made me do it, there's a voice in my head made me," and they genuinely have a voice in their head. And there are people like that suffering from schizophrenia and other things, and they commit murders. But if a normal person who's otherwise perfectly fine, you know, he's got a job and he does things, and everything else is him doing it, but when he comes to commit murder, he says, or rob a bank, he says, "Well, oh, God made me do that." It's like a cha-cha-cha. Shabash. You know, what is it? What was that poem? What was that? Kaha, kaise aur kab? You know, where that poet says that हमें बुतखाने की चौखट पर खुदा याद आया. You know, it's that this is where he remembers God. Kya baat. So yeah. But Azzarrati, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, amazing.
Shukran.
Yeah.
Shukran for joining. Take care. Stay
You
blessed.
too, Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. People, Azzarrati, is always a pleasure.